I guess we are ready, Dr. David. We're ready, man.
Cassandra, are we live? Yes, we are live. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm David Johnson from Transform Ed Consulting, and it's my pleasure to welcome as our guest Dr., or I should say, John C. Turner, PhD. He is CEO, the Professor JT LLC in Indianapolis, Indiana. He earned both Bachelor of Science and Master of Science degrees at Indiana State University. He obtained his doctorate from IUPUI, which is Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, studying urban education. Dr. Turner's research examines minority race males' retention and success. He serves as an education advocate and speaker who creates networks and programs to help close racial divides. He was both an assistant director of academic advising and an adjunct professor at Ivy Tech Community College of Indiana. He was coordinator of a summer bridge program and the lead instructor of a course designed for Black males. His writings are featured in diverse issues in higher education, and he is author of The Art Form of PASSION. Dr. Turner is a recipient of the Black Man Can Award in higher education and a recipient of the National Society of Leadership and Success Excellence in Teaching Award. Welcome, John.
David, it is a blessing and it is an honor to be on with you today. Before we even start, let us please send prayers and thoughts to Michigan State University, all that's happening on their campus, and to all students all around. Hey, I'm ready to get this show rolling, David. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here, and thank you for mentioning Michigan. And before we go any further, we have a lot to discuss about your background, things that you have done. I think we might need to clarify what IUPUI is. How is it that we have an Indiana University, a Purdue University, when they're both rivals, and they somehow came together in peace in Indianapolis? How did that happen?
Well, I mean, we have to tell the real story. The campus of IUPUI, which actually will be splitting here in 2024, was actually built in the city of Indianapolis where the Black citizens live. They call it the slums. They tried to offer housing outside of that area to Black citizens to get them off of that land. And they built the campus of IUPUI. And so it always touches my heart being from Indianapolis to tell the truth of how that campus came about. But it is a combined institution. It does do great research, and I was happy to be able to get my PhD in my hometown.
Well, interesting that you would mention that. We are all familiar with the term urban renewal, but sometimes the real name for it is Negro removal. Attempts to get Black people out of a particular area so that it can be developed for use by the majority and not the minority races within a particular city. Good point. Good point. Your dissertation, you've been interested in Black males and all minority race students. So tell us about your dissertation.
Yes, be able to do that dissertation for the Indiana School of Education in the city of Indianapolis. It was just an incredible work, just a blessing to be able to go back and get some of the students who were in my Black male course that I helped create at Ivy Tech Community College, which is basically your intro to college class, but it was an affinity section just for Black males. And so what I was able to do was get my very first cohort, members from that cohort in fall of 2012, and members from a cohort in fall of 2017, and be able to interview them and see how their lives were before they took the course, while they were taking the course, and after they took the course. And so just some incredible research, tears were shed. It was just incredible to reminisce just how they enjoyed the class so much and how it was life changing. And to be able to do that work, it was truly life changing for me as well.
Well,
And it was awesome.
did you measure in your dissertation?
I'm sorry?
What precisely did you measure in your dissertation?
Yeah, so the measure is looking at that this particular course helped with the success of these students in their lives after they completed. We went along with the theoretical work, looking at Richard Cross and looking at his Black identity development and seeing how these students went from not really knowing not only about themselves, but them as Black students going through that kind of a jarring life of, wow, this is how we're treated in America, as I'm sitting with other Black males in this class and learning about what's going on with them. Then coming out of that course and being able to say, now not only have I learned about myself as a Black male, but I'm going to go back and pull some Black males up with me so we can go and be revolutionary together.
So then was your dissertation longitudinal? Did you follow a cohort of students over a certain period?
No, not necessarily longitudinal. It was more phenomenological. So
go ahead.
We looked at how this course really changed their life and how they went through these certain things before they even came to college,
right,
at Iowa Tech Community College, and how their lives changed just from taking that class.
And that was a bridge course.
Well, it was a course that all the students needed for any degree that they were looking to complete. Mm-hmm. So they had to take the class, but it was just a great experience to be able to have just Black males in the class together.
Okay. One of the reasons I'm asking this is because the concept of summer bridge programs is not new. No. So what made yours successful? What differentiated what you did from what so many schools do each year regarding bridge programs?
Yeah, so what we're really looking at, and I really tried to consider myself more of a guru for summer bridge programs, because we have to look at bridging, not pipeline. That is very, very important. And so we want to make sure that we're connecting students with opportunities that they are interested in, not just saying, oh, we're going to send you to college and hope you make it. You know, so when we created the Male Empowerment Summer Bridge Program, that was to empower male students, which has a lot of times the least amount of success rate at the community college system. When we created the healthcare camp at Marian University, we went into the inner city and brought in inner city students who were students of color. And that camp was about 70% students of color who were interested in healthcare programs. So we are intentional about what they're looking to do, and not just saying, oh, we're just going to throw you in college and hope that you succeed. We want to see you succeed, and we want to give you the tools to be able to do that as well.
Well, there's an expression, and I hope I get it right, about legacy. Legacy are the things that you leave behind after you've left. So you've gone on to do other things. Those programs that you initiated, how do they stand today? Are they as successful as they were when you had initiated them? And do they serve as models from which others can learn and implement in their own schools?
Yeah, so we created that summer bridge program, that healthcare camp at Marian University in 2021. And they went from having, in the first initial camp, 20 students, to the very next year in 2022, they had 50 students. And this was a 1-week intensive program where you brought individuals from all around the campus to be able to show them this is how you succeed in college. And these are the steps and resources to help you get there. That's the key. A lot of people will come and tell you how to succeed in college, but a lot of people won't tell you this is exactly what you need to succeed in college. That's why we're having this conversation today, Dave.
Well, John, I have lots and lots of questions, but we do have a topic that we should jump into this topic. The title of our topic tonight, our conversation, is the struggles and successes of Black students in higher education. We are speaking about it, but we have 4 bullets that I'm sure you have a wealth of knowledge to address. So where would you like to jump in? The state of higher education for Black students? Tell us where you'd like to start. Yeah, so we have to look at these articles that are just coming out. We have Lumina and Gallup that just came out with articles just talking about the non-success of Black students. We have a lot of other different entities and individuals and scholars that are continuously writing about Black students and how they're not succeeding.
They're giving us data after data after data showing us that they're not succeeding. But the thing is, nobody is taking that effort to show you how can they succeed. And this is what we're doing as educators, as institutions, to help them succeed. So that's a big part of the struggle.
Let me stop you. So you mentioned that there are a number of articles that are highlighting, if I understood you correctly, highlighting what's wrong, but not going to the next step and offering suggestions of how to fix what they might find as wrong.
That's correct.
Okay. So given from what you've read, what would you offer as fixes?
Well, we got to save that to the end. We can't give the dessert before we get through all the, different types of sides now.
I see. Okay.
But yeah, we want to make sure that we give logical, practical solutions to a lot of these problems that they're addressing. And we're going to get more into that. We definitely will.
Okay. All right. And I should mention too that we're trying something new this evening, meaning that we will leave some time at the end to entertain questions that people might have regarding the work that you're doing and suggestions, things they can learn and implement at their own institutions. Okay. Where shall we continue?
Yeah.
You have more about the articles that you've been reading?
Well, we can go to the second bullet point, and I'll continue to talk about that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And so as you look at the equality and equity, especially when it comes to Black students in higher education, we have to do the real work of separating what these words mean. These schools are trying a lot on the equality side. They're trying their best to say, here is money. Here are programs, initiatives. And we'll jump into that in the next point.
Okay. There is always a debate about what differentiates or the difference between equality and equity.
That's right.
Tell us your viewpoint on the difference between equality and equity.
Yeah. And so there's a wonderful kind of demographic or kind of graphic that's shown that looks at individuals who get bicycles. And I love showing this, especially when I do speaking engagements, because equality says, I'm going to give everybody a bicycle. They should be happy about that. But equity says, I'm going to give you the exact type of bike that fits you. That is where the struggle comes in when we look at Black students in higher education. It is a great thing for an institution to say, we're going to let you into our school. That's the equality part of it. But the equity part is, how are we specifically supporting those students, Black students in particular, with the needs that they have to help them be successful? That's the hugest difference that we are not doing a great job in addressing when our Black students go to school. That's why you have your matriculation rates. That's why you have your graduation rates that are the lowest among all students on the campuses. We have to be able to address the equality and the equity in a really personable matter.
Now, John, you know that I earned my doctorate at IU Bloomington, and I lived in Indiana, worked in Indiana for a number of years. So I'm familiar with some things regarding Indiana. And I'd like to go back to your experience with Ivy Tech. Yeah. Interestingly, Ivy Tech has changed its name since I left Indiana. Now it's added the term community college.
That's right.
And for the longest time, there was not your word, pipeline from Ivy Tech to any of the state schools. Yeah. What was the impetus behind that change?
Well, of course, Ivy Tech Community College, you can only receive an associate's degree. But when you start to work on those articulation agreements to those 4-year schools, this is letting you know that coming to Ivy Tech is a benefit. And we're going to make sure we're looking not just at you finishing part of a degree, which some people would say just associate's a part of a degree, but you can push that and turn that into a bachelor's degree. And so when you have over 30, 40 articulation agreements, even some articulation agreements with schools out of state, we have to make sure Black students have an understanding that it is a great start at community college. And you look at statistics, Black students primarily start at the community college. And so we have to be able to let these Black students know as soon as they get there, this isn't the end game. This is just the beginning, and we want to be able to support them in doing that.
And John, that is precisely why I asked that question. If Black students found themselves at Ivy Tech before it became Ivy Tech Community College of Indiana,
That's right.
was there then not a pipeline, not a way to get to IU or to Indiana State?
Yeah, because we go back into that, and the thing we get into are the transfer of credits. And also the transfer of your degree to go into what you want to do. So a student might start at a community college and just do engineering. But when they get to the 4-year school, now they can get into electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, all those different types. And so we have to be able to set up a streamline of success coming from there where the tuition is cheaper. It's probably better access to the classes because of where these campuses are located. And also now we're in the technological age where we have to make sure we let our students know that you can get your degree online as well. But we want to make sure that these students know not only can they get their degree, but they can turn it into a lifelong career.
Okay. I'd like to go back some more if I can. Now, we mentioned that you have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from Indiana State. And your bachelor's degree, you studied electronics.
That's correct.
And as we were speaking earlier, you said that was not what you really wanted to study.
Yeah.
And then I asked you, or we noted that in your career path, you worked as an advisor. Tell us how your work as an advisor or your major in electronics informed your work as an advisor.
Yeah. Did hugely, because going into electronics technology, initially I wanted to work on video games, but unfortunately, video games doesn't constitute from electronics technology. That's more engineering, that's more coding, all those different types of things like that. So I stuck with the major because it was something that I ended up enjoying and liking, even though I didn't go into that career. Fast forward, now I'm an educator. I was working at Ivy Tech Community College. I turned into an advisor of information technology. So now I'm an individual that has technological background and letting these students know, hey, if you want to work on video games, don't go this route, because I went that route. And so that's why it was so fulfilling being an academic advisor, because I was being able to say these real talk situations now with students that help them prosper, which I didn't get. And that's why we're having this conversation today. We want to make sure students are getting the real deal conversations when they get to college, even before they go to college, so they're making the right decisions on their major for their future careers as well.
And you also recommended that students not declare a major until well into their college careers.
Yeah. It might be a wild concept, but it was probably the biggest thing that was a blessing for me, because I didn't get actually into electronic technology and realized that I like technology and those things until after a year, which I was undeclared. Now, if we be flat out honest, I went in undeclared because my grades weren't the best and I couldn't get into a major. That's real talk, because that happens a lot of times to Black students. But once I was able to establish my GPA and establish what I wanted to do and knew I wanted to do something in technological fields and different things like that, then I was able to go into a major, and I had credits already set along with a solid 3.0 or higher GPA. So that was helpful as well. Everything's about the foundation when you go to college. And a lot of times we don't teach students that, because if you could set off that very first semester with a strong GPA, it'll set you up for success the rest of college, because it's easier to maintain a GPA than it is to bring it up.
John, I want to tie a bunch of things together here. Your personal experience as an undergraduate, your work as an advisor, the state of higher education, and equity. So if equity is serving the individual student's needs when that student arrives, how do we tie that together to ensure that student be successful?
Well, I think you're doing the work. That's the number one thing. What type of work are you doing? Are you making sure the programs are in place as soon as your students walk in the door, your Black students, so they can be successful? Is there a SAB on your campus, Student African American Brotherhood, or a SAS, Student African American Sisterhood, on your campus? Are there initiatives that are on campus as far as getting students involved in your particular honors programs? organizations like that, where a lot of times we know Black students are the last to get brought into these specific types of organizations, Phi Theta Kappa, all these different types of organizations where students need to get access to, but a lot of times Black students aren't giving those opportunities to. So that's how you get the equity going in a right manner, because when you look at it, you're saying not only as a Black student am I getting these opportunities, but I belong there. That is the hugest key, because a lot of times they don't feel like they belong there, so they don't even fill out the application.
Well, what helps students?
Yeah.
What helps students know that they belong, or even feel, more importantly, feel that they belong?
Yeah, and you look at great scholars like Dr. Terrell Strayhorn that talks about the sense of belonging, because if you're looking at Black students coming into campus, they do not feel they belong. So what helps them is the support of the campus administrators. It could be your janitor on campus. It could definitely has to be the faculty, the advisors, anybody who's on that campus. There has to even be training that says, this is how you better support Black students. And that training better be from somebody who is Black. Let somebody come to your campus and talk to your people that work there. Let you know how to properly work with your students. That's how you build that equity. That's how you can say an individual can come to your campus and they're struggling with housing, and I can help you get housing. That's how you set equity up, because you're meeting the need of that student right where they are.
Where does cultural competence fit into this?
It's a tough question to ask, because then you got to realize whose culture are you looking to be competent of? That is a huge question. And, I could dive into it, but the biggest thing I would say of it is you have to be careful whose culture you're trying to cultivate. That is the biggest
thing. You mentioned that let's look at it from a different direction. Mentorship. Which role does mentorship play here? And should the mentor and the student be of the same race? Is it necessary that for Black students to succeed, that they must have mentorships or models of specifically Black people?
Yeah. And you're going back a lot of times to the equity question, because not every student might necessarily need a mentor, but maybe they just need some direction. And so you have to meet that Black student where they are. And no, the mentor definitely does not have to be of the same race. My greatest mentor when I was in my doctoral program is Dr. Jim Sherrick. And he was a white man, but he knew better than some Black faculty members how to help me succeed. And I appreciated that. So a big part of that is, do you have individuals that want to see Black students succeed? If they do, and they have the right passion in the heart and work behind what they're doing, those need to be mentors.
One of the issues that Black faculty face is that they must work overtime. They must work overtime and double time, meaning their 12 hours of service, teaching, and research, as well as become the shoulders or the mentors on which students will stand.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And what has been your experience and your observation regarding that? And again, speaking of equity, how does this fit together with equity?
Yeah, we understand that the numbers of our Black faculty on our campuses is direly low. But then we have to ask, do the individuals want us there? We got Dr. Mary Beth Gadsman that wrote an article about that back in about 2017, 2018. Do you even want us on your campuses? And so the Black faculty does take on more of a role of serve in any capacity necessary to keep these Black students on our campus. And it's tough. And we appreciate it, and we need to appreciate it more, even though that's not part of their job description. They know when they go on those campuses, they have to do it, and we have to support them in doing it, because a lot of times they are the voice that the students need.
I guess we better move on to one of your other topics. I'm watching the clock, and we don't want to run out of time.
Is there any questions or anything? I mean, we can take questions. Hey, I'm all good.
All right, so what's next? Where would you like to jump next?
Yeah, we can jump to the last one.
Okay.
How we support Black students' higher education. And to me, it is going back to that equity question. What are their true needs? What can we do? If they need housing, if they need transportation, are you giving out, public transportation cards to the students? Are you really looking to see what's going on mental health wise? with your particular students? Do they need those particular types of services? Are those things set up on your campuses or even with the students that you work with? Do you have those connections that you can connect your students with automatically? Not, oh, we don't have that. Can you be a true solution? That's how you get to their successes. That's how you give true solutions, because there are needs and things that these students need that's going to help them graduate outside of your campus. And those are the things we need to make sure that we're looking into and taking the efforts to make sure they're succeeding in any area that they need so they can be successful when they do come to our campuses as students.
John, you just opened another topic. We know that, well, particularly after when the pandemic began, that enrollment in higher education, institutions of higher education declined.
That's right.
And demographics have changed so much that for higher education institutions to survive, they've got to target a different audience.
Right.
And some will say that they've targeted a lower performing audience, and as a result must have such extensive wraparound services in order to support those students. What's your thinking about that? Is that equitable? Is that equal? Is that fair?
Well, we have to realize we're not charity cases as Black students, and don't make assumptions that there are things we need without coming to ask us what we need. That's why we started out talking about a lot of these articles. They're saying they're going to ask these students what they need, but they're not fulfilling them. And so that's why we want to make sure, if you do have proper wraparound services on your campus, that they are fulfilling the needs of the students that you're trying to serve. Because one thing I learned a long time ago, the hardest thing it is for a student a lot of times is to get out the car and go on that campus, sometimes for the very first time, or even fill out that application. What are we doing to assist them as soon as they do that? And if you have the proper services in place, they're going to succeed higher than you ever could expect it, because somebody cared enough to meet them where they were to help them reach the goals that they have.
And how would an institution know what the proper services are?
Yeah. And it's just going back to the students and sitting down with them and really going over what's happening in their lives, not being afraid to ask the hard questions and getting the real down to the real nitty gritty of what they need. That is the key. And if we're not doing that, and then you're not going back to your faculty, staff, and creating programs surrounding those different things, you're dropping the ball, and you just wasted a lot of effort trying to help students, and you did not do it.
John, we have 2 minutes left. It always goes too fast. It goes too fast. So if you were to wrap this up into a single takeaway that you would want our audience to learn from our conversation, what would that takeaway be?
So we had a quick question. I want to make sure I get that answer. Where do you go as faculty? And it kind of goes into my final point. Make sure that you see the need of Black students. Make sure you see their heart. Make sure you see what they truly need deep down in their lives. And that's how you help them be successful. And
what's your call to action? What do you want people to do with this information?
Yeah, I want you to go to your Black students that you serve and really make sure that not only once you find out what they need, that you go ahead and take that knowledge back to the people that you're working with and create solutions, create those programs, create those initiatives. Ask for help from individuals. Like, you can follow me on LinkedIn. You can connect with me there. You can email me, theprofessorjt@gmail.com. Look for individuals who are doing the work and then put your programs together. I work as a consultant, the Professor JT LLC, Educational Counseling. I help individuals, I help organizations, help companies be able to reach those needs. Get the individuals that are doing the work to come help you do the work. That's how you help your students succeed.
Thank you so much for being with us this evening, John. And John C. Turner, PhD, is CEO, the Professor JT LLC in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm David Johnson, Transform Ed Consulting, and it's my pleasure to have been host for our good guest, our great guest this evening. And we should give credit to my dear colleague and friend, Cassandra Williams, who is the brains behind Educational Innovations 360 Degrees. Thank you all for being with us here this evening, and see you next time.